Oh. Maybe I do have OCD. Hey Rebels, this is PJ aka COLDPLAY. So this is not quite the follow-up video about my autism that I've wanted to do, but it's close enough to it. As mentioned in my last video about autism, aka having hyperlexia / autism as an adult, I was going to read my original hyperlexia diagnosis papers. But I didn't exactly want to do that because I thought they were going to be a little boring. However, I remembered that they noted down stuff that I did during the test. So I think it's best if I read this after all. So, lucky for you guys, I actually found this whole entire packet. I thought I lost this, but I forgot I also photocopied it, so even if I lost this version, I still have it on my laptop. But this right here is the original evaluation paper. So one thing I did not mention in my previous video was that I was never officially diagnosed with autism. They told my mom that I actually had to go see a psychologist to be diagnosed, but we never did that. But they basically said, yeah, you have hyperlexia, you just need to go to a psychologist to actually have papers for that. But I am like 90% sure, based on the feedback that I got from my last video, that I am somewhere on the autism spectrum. I'm actually in the process of getting an official diagnosis right now, but now when you get diagnosed with autism, it's just autism spectrum disorder, so I won't actually know what type of autism I possibly had. All I know is my speech therapist and my mom have both told me that I did not have Asperger's. I probably had PDD-NOS, but we'll never know now because now it's just autism spectrum disorder. Oh yeah, another thing I got wrong in the last video was that I was not diagnosed at 5 years old, I was diagnosed at 6. And obviously oh, here's another thing I have to explain. So, I like to go by PJ. P stands for my first name, Peyton. J stands for my middle name, Justine. I don't want anyone knowing my last name because it's very confusing and I don't personally like it myself. But whatever you do, Peyton's my first name. I don't really like to go by it, so just please call me PJ, okay? But just letting you know, that's why it's listed as Peyton. Peyton's my first name. And we're gonna pretend I'm just gonna cross out that last name part right there. Anyways, let's get to the actual part of this video that you guys are probably waiting for. Okay, here we go. Peyton was initially evaluated at this place, have to block that out too, in July of 1999. At the time, she was found to have delays in her expressive language skills, therapy was initiated, and as her speech developed, she was found to have repetitive language deficits, as well as difficulty with social skills. She has been seen for weekly speech therapy sessions, both group and individual, since that time and has marked progress. Okay, well that's good to hear. In response to a language learning questionnaire completed by my mom, the following background information was provided. Medical developmental history. I was apparently a healthy child and had an unremarkable medical history. There have been concerns with regards to her development of speech language, cognitive/thinking skills, and social skills. Her most recent hearing test was within the normal range, and there are presently no concerns with her vision. There is no known family history of speech, language, or learning disabilities. No one else in my family has autism. Nobody knows why I'm autistic. It's just a thing. I'm just gonna paraphrase this part. I was in preschool, and my strengths were my memory and my reading abilities. No surprise there. Language/learning skills. Peyton reportedly learns best through listening, use of visual aids, and direct experience. As I read things, I think I'm also going to explain what I still struggle with. First of all, I actually don't learn best through listening now. Another thing I forgot to mention in my last video was I also have selective hearing. I don't mean to tune people out at all, I promise, but sometimes it happens and I'm just like, what? Huh? Sometimes I don't even know that someone's talking to me. So I think learning through listening is definitely not my strength anymore. However, direct experience, definitely the best way for me to learn something now. Visual aids, they still help, but it's definitely not as best as the direct experience thing. My mom identified the following area of concern on the intake form. Attending/organization. She loses focus easily, makes impulsive/careless, I think there's supposed to be errors there, and does not always retain instructions or what has been read to her. She has to be given verbal instructions more than once. Sadly, this is still true. I'm sure you guys know Dory from Finding Nemo, right? Yeah, I'm literally Dory. I forget things all the time. My mom will be like, okay, take out the trash, and I'll be like, okay, because I heard it, and I'll forget to do it. Or sometimes my mom will be like, I told you to do this. I'm like, are you sure? I never heard it in the first place. Did I say okay? Yeah, you said okay when I told you. Why do I not remember this? I do not remember anything. I barely remember anything from my child. I don't even remember most of this. The one thing I remember about my speech therapist's like office and stuff was that she had this play set, you know, that fake food and like fake kitchen that you got to play with. I never got to play with it, but I always saw it when I went into a room because I wanted to play with it. I don't remember any of these tests. Social-communication skills. She shows confusion in understanding nonverbal body language cues and does not always say things pertaining to the situation. Example, she may repeat a phrase that she has heard somewhere else. Definitely not true anymore. No problems with body language cues, and I know what I'm saying now, at least most of the time. The one thing I did, I do remember this too, I used to run around and pretend to quote SpongeBob. That says a lot about me. Memory has difficulty remembering what to do / directions. I laughed because that's still partially true. General thinking skills has difficulty with abstract ideas, considering alternative ways to solve problems, identifying problems and organizing / carrying out solutions, difficulty with ability to use sequential logic or explain ideas, and reduced speed for thinking and/or processing information. Definitely don't have any issues with most of these now. The one thing I did a lot as a kid as well is I would refuse to do it the right way. It was either my way or no other way at all. But in my defense, it worked some of the time. Another thing I didn't mention in my last video, my second language is Japanese. I started self-teaching myself Japanese in middle school, but then took it formally in high school all 4 years. My sensei happened to be from rural Japan, and he had this unique way of teaching. He would speak entirely in Japanese for the first 15 minutes of class, and he even wrote his own textbook with no English in it. It was either do or die in that class. And I learned the characters out of order. So I turned it into him the first time, and he's like, "You wrote these out of order." I'm like, "I did?" He's like, "Yeah, try it again." So I wrote them in a different order. He's like, "This is still not in order." I'm like, "There's an order?" And he taught for 30 years. He said to me, "I've never seen anything like this." And I started bawling. I'm like, "I'm sorry. I'm pretty sure this has to be because of my hyperlexia." I just learned based on how many strokes there were. Like, I didn't really care if there was an order or not. And then with speed, yeah, processing information still takes a lot of time for me. I used to need a lot more time on tests because it took me a longer time to process questions. Oral expression, difficulty using specific vocabulary, often says, "I don't know," in response to questions. Trouble organizing thoughts and has difficulty answering questions. But what I also used to do was literally write "I don't know" on a test answer page and then put a question mark by it because I was not confident in my answer. Reading skills, difficulty processing longer units like several pages, chapters, manuals, reading technical material or textbooks, and trouble answering open-ended questions about material that has been read. And also difficulty answering questions that started with who, what, where, when, why, and how. The purpose of today's evaluation was to assess all areas of language / learning and to provide suggestions for management in areas of difficulty. Here's the part that I'm not going to like reading. Observations of attention / behavior. Payne readily entered the examining room and participated in all tasks requested of her. Okay, that's good. Payne was a very pleasant, interactive girl who cooperated throughout all of today's evaluation. Oh, that's nice. Not what I expected. Upon initial of the evaluation, oh, here we go. Never mind. Payne demonstrated fidgeting and difficulty staying in her chair. Oh, man. As a result, she was given a number of short breaks throughout testing and completed tests in different locations within the room. Different sized chairs and tables. Why do I not remember any of this? Payne was observed to have a great deal of difficulty maintaining her focus throughout the evaluation. It was the most difficult for her to stay on task when she was presented with auditory information. Oh, see, there we go. She was observed to easily lose her focus as she looked around the room and fidgeted in her chair. Oh my god. It was obvious when Payne had lost her focus and her answer would be unrelated to the question asked. Wow. Good job. She also appeared to be easily distracted by background noise. Really? That's like the opposite now. And on a couple of occasions asked about sounds in another room. That sounds more like it. No pun intended. If it's quiet, I can't stand it. I need some kind of background noise. I don't care if it's music or if it's white noise, but I need background noise. Same thing when I sleep. I have a fan down here. I'd point the camera down, but it's in a really nice angle, so I'm not gonna do that. She had a short attention span and, as mentioned previously, had benefited from short breaks. That still applies. Oh boy. Payne was observed to demonstrate a great deal of impulsivity throughout the evaluation. This was noted primarily when she was having a list of directions read to her. She would often start responding, pointing to pictures, before the entire direction was read to her on listening subtests. She had trouble waiting for the word go before responding. She was also noted to read words impulsively, often making careless errors. Oh my gosh. You know what? I sadly still have this problem. I don't mean to interrupt someone, but sometimes I will interrupt someone mid-sentence because I don't want to forget what I was going to say to them or something like that. I totally don't mean to do it. I don't mean to be rude. I really don't. It's just, I just do it because I feel like I have to do it. Oh man, that actually explains a lot. Interpretation. Peyton demonstrated difficulty with her ability to attend/focus in this quiet one-to-one environment. She demonstrated a short attention span, poor focus, distractibility, and impulsivity. Then these are just recommendations. I'm just gonna skip that part. Auditory processing skills. The following subtests were administered to assess Peyton's listening skills and auditory short-term memory. Informal assessment of Peyton's receptive language skills found that she had difficulty answering some WH questions. Oh, so I was right. Okay. For example, when asked, "When was your birthday?" she responded, "It was good." Really? When asked a second time, Peyton said, "Well, I don't want any friends coming to my party." I'm gonna cry. Why is that still true? So even back when I was 6, I wanted to be alone. Because I'm gonna be totally honest, I need to be alone most of the time. Oh my gosh, that makes way too much sense now. Payne's expressive language skills were assessed through both formal and informal measures. She presented as friendly and interactive throughout the evaluation. The following standardized tests were administered. She appeared to know many of the pictures but could not come up with a name. She was slow to come up with the name of some pictures and often said the wrong word. Example, turner for light switch. Well, it's not that bad. Weigher for ruler. Fire extinguisher. For fire extinguisher. That's a big word though. I'm surprised I knew that one. And chopper for pliers. Okay, still not bad. Phonetic cues. Example, the first sound in the word usually helped her come up with the correct word. Okay, good. I apparently did well with expressive vocabulary and antonyms, but had a difficulty with synonyms. Huh. Scored significantly above the normal range with regards to my ability to decode words and sight-read vocabulary. I scored within the normal range, and I was noted to write all words in uppercase letters. Okay, here's the final part, clinical impressions. Payne was noted to be very fidgety/restless, and she was easily distracted. She had difficulty focusing on auditory information. She required frequent breaks due to a short attention span, and she responded impulsively throughout testing. Payne's difficulty with attention made it hard for her to understand directions and affected her performance on auditory subtests. Expressive language skills. Payne demonstrated difficulty on word structure, which looked at her ability to understand distinctions and meaning based on grammatical markers. She also scored in the low normal range on the retrieval fluency subtest. These results and recommendations were shared with my mom on the day of the evaluation. Given Peyton's precocious ability to read, her difficulty processing language, and her history of social difficulties, she appears to have some of the characteristics of hyperlexia. Other characteristics of hyperlexia that Peyton has demonstrated in the past are learning expressive language in a peculiar way, echoed or memorized sentence structure without understanding the meaning, echolalia, difficulty with correct use of pronouns, strong auditory/visual memory, difficulty answering WH questions, concrete/literal thinking, and difficulty with abstract concepts. And ladies and gentlemen, that's it. So if I gave you a better understanding of hyperlexia, give me a big thumbs up. I loved reading through your guys' stories on my last video, so thank you all for sharing your personal experiences. That really means a lot to me. I'm so glad that I'm not alone when it comes to some of these things. And until next time, bye-bye. Ugh.